an A grade from addressing the needs I felt when you go through the entire draft. And then those 4 picks in the third round, very valuable picks that can be used and utilized right away. I think some of the lower round guys can be guys that can make the team, special teams guys could be that depth. But when I look at this team overall and I see 2 receivers who could be obviously with Marvin Harrison Jr. very, very beneficial. Got 2 offensive linemen that can be plug and play if needed. 1 running back who can be an absolute home run hitter, coming out of the backfield. Then the 3 corners, the 1 safety who could be a slot corner / safety. I think we talked about this last week a little bit. Jackson reference to at some point Buda Baker's, going to be moving on, and I think that those are some things you look at. And then the 2 edge rushers. I mean, that's the thing I look at that, especially with Derek Thompson. Look at him as to what he can bring immediately. Again, impactful. And then the kid out of Illinois, the tight end out of Illinois, I think what he brings as far as a backup and a kid that can play. But the other thing that stands out, guys, when you look at the schools and the conferences these guys all came from, aside from the receiver at UAB, but they're Division I, is the competition.
But everybody was Division I. You the second time
that's what I'm saying. Division I. I'm talking about the league, the conference they came from.
I understand, but they're all D1. You mean the level of D1?
The level of D1, yeah. That's what I'm getting at.
SEC, Big Ten?
Yeah, I mean, that's I look at is, you look at the SEC, the Big Ten, all the conferences, good competition, solid players within that competition, and that matters. And I think on top of that, I mean, even the cornerback from Rutgers, he's playing good competition every week.
He's playing Big Ten.
And I like that that's the kind of guys went after. On top of that, they're all solid citizens. Every one of them. And they talked about, that culture. And I think the impactfulness or the way that, as I mentioned, that, you look at Robinson on the defensive side, Melton as that cornerback. He's athletic. He's quick. He's proven over and over again. You look at Trey Benson, the kid out of Florida State.
I like him, Manuch.
I mean, I watch him. Wow. Yeah. I mean, I'm like, he was available, and he can bring that, with James Conner. I call it the thunder and lightning, right? Guy's big, strong guy. Can come out of the backfield, catches the ball, blocks. But once he gets to the second level, guys, he's gone. And they haven't had a running back like that. Hell, I don't know. I'll think I go back to Hurst, and when he was playing with this Cardinals team. But those are some of the things you look overall. But those 4 picks in that third round are solid. There's guys that can come in right away and contribute. If not contribute, be kind of guys that can come in and learn and be depth. So I thought Monty addressed the needs, which he needed to, and there wasn't that, the best available. I mean, with the Steve Keim era and prior to that, Rod Graves era, address you need corners. Address you need a safety that's going to eventually have to replace Buda Baker. Address guys that can, here's something that needs to be conformed, that can tackle. How about
That's
that?
A plus.
That can cover and can tackle. And how about guys, if you're going to go after guys, your top conference guys that make sense in order to help your team win and move on from the standpoint of getting off the schneid for these 4-game win seasons and improve this team to try to get them, I think, in a couple of years to the next level, which is the playoffs. So that's, as I looked at this, dang, Monty, you did good. But those 4 picks in the third round, talk about getting guys of substance and guys that are needed for this team was, I thought he did a great job from that standpoint.
So on paper, you're giving him an A.
Yeah, I'm going to give him an A. I thought he addressed all the needs. I think the kind of player he went after, the quality, where they're from, their backgrounds, the experience they had. I thought he nailed it from that particular standpoint on paper. But guys, as we know, it's who knows. But I think one of the picks aside from Marvin Harrison Jr., I really like the Darius Robinson pick. I really do. Watch this young man and character aside and all that. I mean, 5 years playing the SEC at Missouri, can play inside, can play outside. Guys, he basically is a 2-in-1. He's kind of that hybrid. And I think those are, when you look at this team overall, there's a guy that can make some impactful scenarios for this team, depending whether you go 3-4 or 4-3. He can play in either one of those defensive lines. And I think that's, for a defensive coordinator, that's very good to say. He can be just as good in a 4-3 front as he can in a 34 front.
I will say this about Trey Benson. You touched on him briefly, the running back out of Florida State. when Florida State was undefeated. I got kind of hooked on watching them because I liked watching their quarterback as well, obviously before he got hurt. But Benson was the guy that just made you go,
Sure.
damn, they've really got a running back here. And I hadn't paid much attention to him this past college season until I started watching Florida State.
And Bobby Mack, who comes on every Tuesday, he had him as his #1 running back in the draft.
He did.
So, I thought that Bobby Mack of the Arizona Republic, he called that out. So when it comes to value, at least on paper, to get him at in round 3, 66 overall was strong. I guess I've always said for the Cardinals as just a fan here for 20-something years is I would draft all offensive linemen. I just think that's always been an issue for this team is offensive linemen. I think they got 2. They got the guard from Illinois, and then they later, I think, they got the offensive tackle from Texas. So they've got a couple guys that, hopefully will make do, but they were lower picks.
Well, to that point, I mean, you think of, okay, you got a good solid core of linemen and backups. So these kids could be depth kids because if Will Hernandez, who pretty much goes down twice a year, you got this group of backups. These kids can be developed. You hopefully develop, but I mean, you got a kid from Illinois, you got a kid from Texas. They're moving the pile. They're blocking, and I think the one thing that I look at, you look at Monty Ossenfort coming from New England and Tennessee, and then JG coming from the Philadelphia Eagles, and Pettis coming from Cleveland and Eagles is the emphasis on the running game. They're going to emphasize, I think, with James, Connor, and then with Benson, and the other 2 backups that they have, they're going to focus on that. So I think if you got enough good, solid, committed linemen, that's going to come in need later on in the year.
I want to pass this note on with Bobby Mack. We love Bobby. He's been coming on with us for 15 years, but he had one final thought, a note when it comes to the Cards. They ended up drafting 12 players overall, but 7 within the top 90 selections overall. And with that being said, they were the first team to do that since the 91 Cowboys.
Wow.
When they used all those picks for Herschel Walker to take 7 players in the first 90. So that's been a long time. So you got to give Monty a lot of credit for that.
Well, especially getting 4 in the 3rd round. I mean, talk about quality and value and all the above. That's very rare. We see that, guys, and you see those moves being made. Matter of fact, I think that was at the 91 draft for the Cowboys. Troy Aikman was taken #1, and then eventually at the Emmitt Smiths, the Michael Irvins, and that was, I remember them coming over to Sun Devil Stadium, Frank Cush Field, watching them take on the Cardinals. And they were hammering Troy Aikman and that group of young guys that first year. And then the second year, Jimmy Johnson, the head coach, started turning that thing around. When got the butt guts, as you mentioned, he focused on the linemen and defensive linemen. And Jimmy Johnson was one of those couple things that amazing about his drafts his first few years is linebackers that were undersized, but they're fast. Linemen that were 300 plus, but that's what he needed. Well, wait a second. It was rare you had a 300 plus lineman. He went after the big guys, and then the defensive line was the other focus of big defensive linemen, big offensive linemen, but quick and fast linebackers and quick and fast safeties who were aggressive but that could tackle. Jimmy Johnson, with those drafts, started to change the look of the National Football League as far as defensively, but he kept the look and reestablishing the Emmitt Smiths and their running game, and then went and got those core receivers in Michael Irvin. I think Hunter was the other one that was out there, and then the the tight end that played for the Cardinals for a year or 2 was at Wyoming. When he got on the map, Jimmy laid that bad boy out there perfectly for them to go win those 3 Super Bowl titles.
Hey, in about 20 minutes, we'll kind of get a behind-the-scenes look at Marvin Harrison Jr. from Steve Hellwagon. He's with BuckNuts.com, 24/7 Sports. He's been covering the Ohio State Buckeyes since '88, so he'll join us in about 20 minutes.